Hey, Math 85, this is Professor Sue. We are doing section 3.3, which is subtracting integers. So we've done the positives and negatives, we've added them, and now we're going to subtract them. So if I have a -3 minus a 4. We can think of this as a -3 plus a -4, if that's easier for you. When you have two negatives like this, a -3 and a -4, you're just going to add them. Or if it helps to draw it out, I've got 3 negatives and 4 negatives. So this is a total of 7 negatives. So my answer is -7. Let's try another one like that. If I've got a -20 minus 15. And again, if you want to leave it like that, and if you know that you're going to put these together when you have two negatives, or if you want to put the plus in here, or write it like that. So all we're doing is we're adding -20 and -15, and we're putting them together. We're just adding down, and we get -35. So when you have a negative in front of the number and a negative in front of the second number, they're both negatives. You can draw them out if you want. You can just do it regular. Just add them together, basically what you're going to do. And the answer will always be negative. Let me write that. So when adding two negatives, okay, and let me show you how we do this in the calculator. So let's see, I'll do the second one for you. Here's your negative button down here. It's right next to enter. So I've got negative, whoops, it'd be nice to turn it on, -20 minus is up here. So be careful. The first one is a negative, but the second one is a minus. That might be confusing. So your answer is -35. Let me do another one. Just making this up. -36 minus 25. Enter, -61. So the first number is a negative. We're subtracting. We're subtracting, but we're really adding them together. I know that may sound confusing, but whenever you have a negative and a negative, you're adding them together. So we are subtracting, but we are really adding. We're adding both negatives together. I hope that makes sense for you. Okay, what happens when I have a double negative? Okay. Now, a double negative means there are two negative signs in front of a number. And that's why we call it a double negative. So it means there are two negative sides in front of a number. So it's going to look something like this. And when I have two negatives like this, it means I'm taking the opposite of -5. So this means and what's the opposite of -5? Well, that just means it's a +5. So in other words, if you have a double negative, it will turn the number positive. So just like here we had the double negative in front of the 5, two negatives in front of a number, it turns it positive. So you can think of it as taking the opposite of -5, or in your mind you might already know that two negatives together will get you a positive. So if I had something like this. This is a +6. There's no sign in front of it, and when there's no sign in front of it, we assume it's positive. But here I have a double negative, and if it helps for you to circle them, you can do whatever you need to do. So this actually means 6 plus 5, and that means just 11. So whenever you have the double negative, you're going to turn the sign positive. So 6 minus a -5, it means the same as 6 plus 5. Let me try another one of those. What about 7 minus a -8? Or 7 subtract a -8. So again, if you want to circle the double negatives, so I've got the double negative here. This means the same thing as 7 plus 8, which means 15. So whenever I have the double negative, I'm going to make that sign positive. Let me go a little bit harder. Well, let me do one before that. Do we remember what happened in the last section when I had something like this, an 11 minus 13? So this is kind of review from last section. 11 minus 13. I have a positive 11 and a negative 13. Well, we could draw that out and have 11 positives and 13 negatives if we wanted to. Or remember, we subtract and take the sign Okay, so I'm going to take 13 minus 11, and I'm going to get 2. And is it a positive 2 or a negative 2? Well, if we look up here, who's got more? I've got 11 positives, but I've got 13 negatives. So the 2 is going to be negative because there's more negatives. So your final answer is negative 2. I can always draw this out. So I've got 13 Okay, so that's 13 positives. I did that incorrectly. I need 11 positives. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. These are not here. Okay, so I've got 11 positives. And then I've got 13 negatives. And I'm just doing this way. You don't have to do this way. I'm just doing it this way because the book shows this. And then remember what happens when we have a positive and a negative together. They cancel out. So all these are going to cancel out. And what's left? Well, we get the same answer, negative 2. Okay, so when you have a positive and a negative, let me give you one to try. Let's say I have a negative 8 and a positive 5. So when we come back to the next video, I'll give you the answer for that, but take a couple minutes and try that. And you can either draw it out or use the subtraction method, and your sign goes with whoever has more. Okay, so I'll be back with part B.